Very good
So
morning,
guys,
sir.
today is the second demo sessions. Uh, Yesterday we have discussed, right, what is microservices architecture, what is monolithic architecture, what are the challenges with monolithic architecture, what is microservices architecture, how we can overcome the monolithic architecture challenges with microservices architecture, why big companies are moving from monolithic architecture to microservices architecture, and that is nothing but one, right, our chapter one of our microservices syllabus. Today, what we are going to discuss, first of all, we will discuss that the core microservices design principles. This is nothing but a theoretical concept. And apart from this, chapter 2, we are also going to discuss chapter 3. I will show you what is exactly clean architecture, how you can develop application with the clean architecture. I will develop one completely application and show you, right, so that you can easily understand. In tomorrow, that is the last demo session. I will discuss, right, what is the domain-driven design. So this clean architecture and the domain-driven design, these two are very, very important from the microservices application development point of view. So once these two sessions are completed, our main session, I will start from chapter 5, where I will show you how you can develop the microservices applications right from the scratch. So I will develop one completely e-commerce application that is going to involve five independent modules, starting with users module, product module, order module, payment module, and the notification module. So how you can develop each microservices independently? What are the things to be need to put inside each microservices? How the microservices is consumed by the client application? How the microservices communicate with each other internally, what is asynchronous communication, what is synchronous communication, and all the advanced concept we are going to discuss one by one. Before starting the session, right? If anyone joined for the first time today, if anyone missed yesterday's session, right? I have already uploaded yesterday's session, right, on my YouTube channel. You can go ahead and you can watch the session. If any question related to the training program, how it is going to be happening, that is what question answer session we have discussed yesterday. If anyone new right today, right, first let me complete the chapter 2 and 3. Then I will take the questions from you guys, right? So whatever all your questions are in your mind related to the training program, course fee, structure, duration, right? Recorded sessions. If you miss any session, then what will be happening? Everything I'm going to right give you proper information. But that is what after the end of a session. Clear?
Yes,
So first we are going to discuss the core microservices design principle. See, nowadays, right, whenever any company is developing applications, they are using microservices architecture. Why? Because microservices architecture is one of the successful architecture. Successful architecture means what? It means it provides some rules, restrictions, or you can say principles. So, and those principles makes this architecture as a successful one. So, what are these principles? First of all, we need to understand why this microservices architecture becomes successful, and because of the some right some principle. What are the principle? The principle are single responsibility principle, independent deployment principle, decentralized data management, load coupling, high cohesion, event-driven communication, fault isolation, scalability, and technical technology diversity. Right. So let us proceed and understand all these principles by taking the e-commerce application. What we are going to develop in our right live session. See, uh, so the application, right? What we are going to develop by taking that application into considerations, I'm trying to make you understand all these principles right before proceeding further. So let us proceed and understand what application we are going to develop. We are basically going to develop one complete e-commerce application using microservices. The e-commerce application, what we are going to develop, it is going to provide the flexibility to place online orders. So basically, it will allow the vendor to upload products. It will allow the admin to manage the order and payment informations. It will allow the user to register himself. It will allow the user to place the order. It will allow us to right to make the user to payment right to payment. It also allows the user for real-time order processing and also allows the user to get important notifications, right? So for this purpose, you can see our application is going to be divided into five independent modules. So what are these modules? You can see we are having user service model. So this user service model is nothing but it is the membership management system. Sir, what do you mean by membership management system? That the completely in and out flow of the user management that is going to be managed by the system. Starting from user registration, user authentication, forgot password, change password, right? Email verification, mobile number verifications, right? JWT token generation, refresh token generation, token validations, two-factor authentication. All these things are going to be put inside this user service model. Second module, what or second microservice, what we are going to discuss is the product service. So this product service is going to manage the product catalog. So what is the product? This product belongs to which product category? How much stocks is available, right, for a particular product? Whether the product is available for to be purchased by the customer? What is the discount available for that product? So the completely product management is going to be handled by this product service. Order service means it is going to manage the order life cycle, starting from order creation, order right confirmation, order cancellation, right? So and getting the order history, getting the order details, right? For example, you want to create order. First, it will create the order in processing state. Then it will move that order to confirmation state. If the user cancel the order, then it is going to be cancelled. Once the order is confirmed, then the order right shipping functionality is going to be there. So that order state might be shipped to packaged, delivered, right? Whatever. So and then, right, if the user wants to see its order details, how many orders he has purchased, that order history. So all these things are going to be managed by this order service. For managing this right order, right things internally, it might be going to deal with the product service, right, to check whether the product is available or not, right, before purchasing the or before placing the order. So the payment service is going to handle the payment life cycle. Payment life cycle in the sense, right? Payment initiation, payment confirmation, consuming the payment gateway, right? Also, it is going to manage the refund functionality. For example, one order is cancelled. Once the order is cancelled, then how much amount to be refunded, how much amount to be taken as the cancellation charge, all these things are going to be managed by the products, managed by the payment service. The last one is going to be the notification service. For example, one new user on board. So once the user on board to our system, we need to send one welcome message to the user. We need to verify the user email ID. We need to send one email confirmation link, right? We need to verify the user mobile number. We need to send one confirmation OTP to the user mobile number. Similarly, when the user forget password, we need to send the forget password link to the user. Order is placed, the order is confirmed, that order confirmation email. Payment confirmed, payment confirmation email. Order cancelled, that cancellation email. Payment refund, that payment refund email. So basically, whatever all the notification communication is required for the user, that is what we are going to manage. Again, three different types of notifications we are going to manage. One is via email, second one is via SMS, third one is enough notifications. And what do you mean by enough notification? Enough notification means those notifications are only available within the application. So once you log in, one notification button will be there. And there, once you click all the notifications, whatever is sent to you, those notification details you can also view. So along with the way you are sending the notification to the right what notification. For example, right, if you want to know, sir, what do you mean by notification email? For example, your order is packaged, your order is courier. Which courier is sending your order information? So those information you can you can inform to the user by sending some enough notification. So all these things we are going to implement in our application. So this is what we are going to develop. Now, let us try to understand what are the core microservices principles. So, first of all, is that clear what application we are going to develop in our microservices throughout the microservices sessions?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Fine. So now what I'm going to discuss, I'm going to discuss the core microservices principles one by one. And guys, remember, I just give you an overview of this model. So each model in and right, completely features we are going to implement. We are not going to miss a single feature. Whatever all features required for each service, all these features, right? I'm saying all means don't expect me right? The way Amazon is implemented, in that way we are going to implement. So minimum requirement, right, for making a right e-commerce application to be available for a customer to be place order, managing the vendor. These things we are going to implement. And here we are, our main objective is not to learn the domain knowledge. Yes, I'm giving the complete domain knowledge experience, that is well and fine. But here our main objective to learn microservices concept. So how you can use microservices in your right day-to-day project. And if you are working professional, then you are very sure that within 3 months of time period, taking 1 hour, 30 minutes per day, even you right, the one completely right, completely e-commerce application is not feasible to be completely developed. So so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right. I have right. So basically, whatever the required features are required, right? I'm not going to implement all the advanced feature. So minimum features which are required for developing any e-commerce application, like a payment model. So how to initiate the payment, how to consume the payment gateway, how you will handle the payment gateway response, right? How to confirm the payment, how to make the refund functionality, how you are going to calculate the refund amount, right? How to automate the refund process, how to create the background service for a pending payment. So those things we are going to implement, right? So let us proceed and understand what are the core microservices principle. So one of the core microservices principle is single responsibility principle. Sir, what do you mean by single responsibility? The single responsibility means that each microservice should have only one clear, well-defined job and responsibility. User service means what? Now, this user microservice should have only one responsibility. What is that responsibility? Responsibility means any function you need to define here, it should be related to user only. For example, getting the user data, creating a new profile, updating the profile, right, resetting the password, generating the token, refresh token. So all these things are related to user. So those functionality are going to be defined within the user service. Similarly, product service means what? The only functionality. See, guys, whenever I'm saying one function, right, responsibility or one well-defined job or one clear responsibility, so it doesn't mean it is going to have only one endpoint or one method. One responsibility means the responsibility can be multiple, right? I mean, multiple functions you need to define, but all those functions should be based, right? Should be related to your main entity. Main entity means what? Now, here, main entity is a user entity. So any functionality here we need to define. It should be related to user entity or a user service. Product entity means what? The any functionality you need to define that should be related to your product entity. So here main entity is product. So how to create a product, how to update the product data, how to update the product stock quantity, how to return the product data, how to return filter the data based on the product. Right? All these are nothing but related to your product. So those services you need to define here. Order service means entire the order life cycle, how to initiate the order, how to right process the order, how to change the order status, how to cancel the order, how to retrieve the order history, how to return the order details by order ID. So these are nothing but order related functionality, and this needs to be put inside the order service. And same in the case of a payment service. So in the order service, we should not define any functionality related to payment, related to product, right? So you might have one question, sir. To complete the order functionality, then I need the payment information, I need the product information. How I can do this? In that case, right? In that case, what you need to do? Now, in that case, this product service and order service, right? Payment service, they are going to expose some endpoint. Those endpoints you need to call here. So instead of right accessing the database or the code base, so here we need to use the services, right, which is going to be exposed by the product service. For example, while you are creating the product, sorry, while you are placing an order, you need to call the product by, right, in the product service, they will provide one method get by ID. That method you need to call from here. That method is going to return the product data. Second thing is that while you are confirming the order, you need to ensure whether the payment is done or not. If the payment method is not right, cash on delivery, if it is not cash on delivery, Other than cash on delivery means it is online payment. In case of online payment, you need to ensure that payment is already completed. If the payment is already completed and whatever the payment amount taken and whatever the order amount, if both are matched, then I need to confirm the order. So for that purpose, you need the payment information. Then this payment service needs to expose some endpoint. That endpoint you need to call from the order service to get the payment information. So this is how the internal functionality is going to be implemented. Rather than implementing the payment related logic or product related logic here, we need to consume the product service and payment service to get the required information. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And this
Thank you, sir.
SRP, it is one of the solid principle. If you know what you mean by solid, that is divided the right. Solid means they have represent five independent principles, and one of the principle is a single responsibility principle. So it means one model or one right domain should have only one responsibility, and that responsibility is required to change that model. So it means if there is a need to change the order functionality, then it should be related to order. For product related things, I am not going to change the order service. Clear? The second responsibility is independent deployment. Now, you can say I'm having different services, product service, order service, user service, payment service, notification service, many different kind of services are there. Now I need to implement one new feature into the product service, that is the bulk upload, right? Bulk insert. So I'm initially I'm taking one by one from the right vendor and uploading that product one by one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a bulk import functionality where the vendor is going to provide the product information via one CSV file or Excel file, and that CSV file I'm going to upload right into my database. So that is a new feature you implemented. So when you implement this feature, then what you need to do? You need to build that feature in the product service. If you are building that feature in the product service, then where you need to test that feature, again, it is going to be tested in the product service. If where you need to deploy that feature, again, that product service only needs to be deployed. If I'm adding some new feature, if I'm fixing some bug here, then only that service need to be deployed into the server, not the order service, user service, and payment service. For example, now, right, currently you are having two payment gateway method, right? You are implementing PayPal, you are right, integrating some online payment option. Now you want to integrate UPI payment. That means that the payment method is going to be implemented in the payment service. If that method is implemented here, do I need to right, make any right, what I can say? Do I need to deploy this product order and user service? No, only payment service needs to be deployed into the server. So what is the benefit of this approach? So the benefit is that if the product service failed, then only this service is going to be failed. Other services are going to be unimpacted. So order service impact unimpacted. Order service it is going to be impacted slightly. How? Now you cannot place the order because the product service is down, so you cannot get the product information. But the user service is unimpacted. He can view the order, right? Or he can log in. Payment service is unimpacted, right? Whatever pending payments are there, they are going to be still processed in the background. So the benefit is that if that model get affected, or that the right server get affected, only that service is going to be impacted, not others, right? That is the benefit of independent deployment. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, now the next one is a decent. And guys, remember whatever survey, whatever concept we are discussing, these things we are going to implement practically. I will show you right how you are going to implement a SRP. I'm going to show you how you can deploy your services independently. Next one is decentralized data management. So let us try to understand what is exactly this one. See, suppose as I have already discussed, right? Suppose in this case order service, right? While you are placing the order, what information you need? You need the user information, whether the user is valid or not. You need the product information, whether the product is valid or not. Similarly, when you are placing the payment, so you need to check whether the order amount is the same or not, right? Whatever the payment amount. So in that case, internally each service needs some data from other services. How it is going to get the data? So that is nothing but decentralized data management. So in that case, Each service having its own database, order service having one database, customer service is having its one database. So while I'm going to place the order, I need the customer data. Whatever the customer ID I received from the client, I need to ensure whether that customer exists active or not. So if the customer is exist but not active, he cannot place the order. If the customer itself not exist, then nothing, right? We should not proceed further. So how we can verify this information? Now for that purpose, whatever customer ID we get, we need to retrieve that customer data from the database. But what is the challenging thing or what things you need to take into consideration that direct communication is restricted. So your order service should not communicate with the customer database. So in that case, what you need to do, you can call this customer service. This customer service should expose some endpoint, which should take the customer ID and which should retrieve the customer information from this database. Now that order service going to call that customer service endpoint API to get the customer data. So decentralized data management means what? Means your services is going to communicate with other services through API call, asynchronous programming, right? Whatever, asynchronous communication or synchronous communication, but not directly the database. So your order service will not access the database directly. That is the decentralized data management. Each service having its own database, and other service cannot access the data from other services, right? So one service, order service, can have only access to the order database. Order service cannot access the customer database. So customer service can only access the customer database. He cannot access the order database. He cannot access the payment database, nothing else. So, and how they are going to access the data? By using the synchronous and asynchronous communication. Synchronous means based on the HTTP REST API, or and asynchronous means some message broker, they will come into the picture. So now let assume we are having this API call. So based on the RESTful API, we are getting the data from the respective services. Clear? What do you mean by decentralized data management? Clear or
Yes.
not?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so guys, this is very important
Yes,
things.
sir. Clear.
And whenever we are going to develop microservices, we are going to follow these principles. Next one is loose coupling. See, so now loose coupling means what? Now the services are going to be independent. Product service is independent. Payment service is independent. They should not have any dependency. Order service is going to be also independent. So it means what? It means they are not tightly coupled. They are not tightly coupled means what? Now here you can say order service, it's an independent project. Product service, it is an independent project. Payment service, it is an independent project. Now, whenever we are doing some changes in each service, it should not have any impact on other service. For example, there is order service logic you have written while creating the order. So while I'm changing the logic in the order service, it should not have any impact on the product service. It should not have any impact on the payment service. Similarly, whenever I'm modifying the payment service logic, how it is going to get implemented, that logic should not have any impact on the order service and the product service, right? So when it will be impacted, when it will not be impacted. Now, in that case, right, if you are directly communicating the logic, right, directly communicating the logic means, right, if you are creating the DLL, uploading that DLL into the order service and payment service DLL here, that means there is a dependency. What exactly means there is a dependency? Now, if you create one product service, that DLL you uploaded and you are consuming that DLL from the order service, but later on, if that product service logic again changed means what? Again you need to write, again generate the DLL, and again you need to upload that DLL here. So that is direct, that is nothing but dependency. So instead of that, what we need to do, now we are not going to inject, right, import the DLL. So we need to consume the services through API. So here, whatever the data I need, you have to expose through API. Here also the data needs to be exposed through API. So in that case, if you do some changes in the logic, then order service is not impacted. If you do some changes in the product payment service, then order service is also not going to be impacted. So when it will be impacted? Now when the contract is changed. Sir, what do you mean by contract change? Now, for example, Currently, payment service taking two parameter, right? What is the payment ID and what is the, what I can say, order ID. But from the payment ID and order ID, let assume now the payment service going to take, sorry, not the payment ID, you can consider payment method and order method. Now we have modified, no, along with the payment method or payment method and order ID, we also need to take the payment amount from the client. So in that case, that method signature is changed. So whenever the signature changed, right, that is nothing but your contract change. So that is acceptable. So without that data, your application will not be worked as expected. So if you are changing the API contract, then other service needs to be updated, right? Why? Because whatever the data required, so that data we need to pass. For example, your endpoint expecting three parameter. Earlier, initially it is two parameter, and now already initially order service consuming the service by passing two parameter. Now it is not passing two parameter, it is taking three parameter. Then that is going to be impacted, and we have to modify here also by passing the additional parameter. So in this case, this is acceptable. If your method signature changes, that is acceptable. But instead of a signature, if the logic is changed, in that case, is it going to be impact order service? No. So that is loose coupling. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
That
sir.
is
Got
what
it.
we need to implement, right? Then high cohesion, this is nothing but you can consider similar to your single responsibility principle. So whatever the functionality required for each service, right, they are going to handle by the respective services. Product service, it can manage everything related to product, handling from creating product, deleting, updating, modifying, fetching product information, everything. So it should not process orders, payment, and the user. So it is completely, you can consider this high cohesion is nothing but it is similar to your single responsibility principle. Everything whatever required, that is going to be required by the independent service. It should not have any what I can say, uh, other additional responsibility which should be processed by other. Payment means payment related functionality should be implemented here. Order means only order related functionality is going to be implemented. So this high cohesion, it is nothing but another, or you can say it is the alternative, right, naming for your single responsibility principle. So next one is event driven communication. This is one of the important, right, what I can say, functionality, right? So let us understand. See, so when we place the order, what I need to do? Two things I need to do. What things I need to do? Two things. What are the things? Now, first of all, once your order is placed, do I need to reduce the stock quantity? Whatever the product ID are being placed as part of the order, and whatever the quantity selected by the customer. So those quantity, do I need to reduce from the respective product from the product service?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
And again, once the order is initiated, right, and order status is in process, do I need to initiate the payment?
Yes.
So in that case, what I need to do, right, I can create, right, what I can say, one event. One event means what? Now here in the order service, I created one order placed event. And that event means you can consider this is a publisher and subscriber based approach. So this is one event, right? For example, one event is going to be there in your red village, right? One festival is there, one event is going to be happening. So whoever registered for that event, they are going to be right attend the event. So in this case, we created this event, and you can consider order service is the publisher. This publisher create this order placed event, and this product service and payment service, they are the subscriber for this event. So what exactly it means? It means when this event is going to be fired, whoever the subscriber, they will listen to that event, and that functionality, whatever functionality is required, they are going to implement. For example, one event is going to be held on your right university or college, right? Annual function. So in that case, different teams are going to be there who are going to manage a different, what I can say, uh, role in that event. So when the event day comes, whatever responsibility provided to you, so you have to do it. Similarly, when the order place event is fired, then what exactly happened? Now, in that case, two services, right, or two subscriber, subscribe to that event. So when they receive that order place event is fired, then what they are going to do? So this order place event is also going to pass the order ID and the payment rate order ID. So this product service event, what exactly it is going to check? It will receive the order ID. The payment service, it is also going to receive the order ID. Product service, what exactly it is going to do? So based on the order ID, it will fetch what are the product placed. And those product data, it is going to reduce in the database. I mean, from the respective table column. So, and again, at the same time, what exactly the payment service is going to do once the order is placed, it is going to initiate the payment, right? That payment ID is going to be generated, and then it will, process the payment internally. So the point that what you need to remember is these things are going to be performed in the backend. So once the order is placed, the customer will receive one order ID, right? The customer will receive an order ID, and that order ID it will use to make the payment. But initially, internally, you can consider, see, the product service is going to be there, payment service is going to be there. They are also handling the something right internally. For example, another thing is that so order is confirmed. So once the order is confirmed, so order confirm event is there, then what I need to do? I need to inform the vendor that one of the product is purchased by some of the customer. That information we need to inform to the vendor. At the same time, once the order is confirmed, we need to send one order confirmation email to the customer. So these things I need to handle internally, or we have to wait till this functionality is completed and then we'll inform the user that your order is confirmed. What is the best approach? Do you need to inform the vendor? Do you need to send the confirmation email and then only go and inform the user that your order is confirmed? Or what you need to? Our second approach, once the order is confirmed, just inform that your order is confirmed, and behind the scene, right? Inform the vendor that one order is placed for your product. Behind the scene, send the order confirmation email to the customer, which is going to give you better performance and
Sir,
better user.
internally handling this issue is better.
Right? So for that purpose, what we are going to do, we are going to use event-driven communication. So this event-driven communication is nothing but it is publisher subscriber based approach. The publisher will create one event. Subscriber will subscribe to that event. When that event is fired, the subscriber what for right they are going to process the logic behind the scene for whatever logic you have implemented. So how to implement this thing? Practically, we are also going to discuss. For now, this is event-driven communication. The publisher is going to create one event, subscriber will subscribe that event, and when that event is fired, the subscriber, right, they are going to process the things behind the scene. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Anyone having any question, guys?
Sir, that part could
Yeah.
you repeat once again that the publisher and subscriber part? I did not get it.
Okay, okay, let me give you one thing, right? So here, order service, let assume this is the publisher. And the product service and payment service, let assume they are the subscriber, right? So why I'm saying order service is the publisher, you just tell me when the order is placed or when the order is confirmed, who will confirm? Guys, give me 1 minute.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, his voice is
Yeah.
not audible.
Okay. Guys, see. In this case, you just tell me who is the publisher and who is the subscriber. That is important to understand. No. When the order is
Order
placed and
service is the publisher.
when the order is confirmed, who will confirm this one? Whether the order is placed,
Order
whether the order
service.
is confirmed. That is going to be decided by the order service or product service or the payment service.
Payment service.
How payment service is going to decide?
Order
Payment service
service.
will
No,
only to
Service.
handle the
sir.
payment related activities, nothing else.
Sir,
Order
this
service.
will confirm from the
So in
product.
that case, right, okay, let me give you the clarity. Payment service you are saying. If the user opt for cash on delivery, in that case, what will happen? So the order confirmation means it is the responsibility of the order service. So what I have told you from the beginning, each service having its own responsibility. Order related functionality is going to be handled by the order service. Payment related functionality is going to be handled by the payment service. So if order is confirmed, whether order is cancelled, so that is the responsibility of the order service only. Am I right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So whether the order is confirmed, whether the order is right cancelled, so that is going to be decided by the order service. So in that case, whoever decide the functionality, he is going to be the publisher. So in this case, if order is placed, if order is cancelled, so order is going to decide this thing. So order is the publisher, and for this publisher, right, we have created one event. Now, when the order is placed or order is cancelled, this event is going to be fired. And to this event, this product service is subscribed. Means what? Now, if order is confirmed, I need to reduce the product quantity. If order is cancelled, again, I need to reverse the product quantity. Right? Similarly, payment service, if order is placed, I need to initiate the payment. If order is right cancelled, then I need to initiate the refund. Right? Similarly to this order placed, right, you can have notification service. If order is confirmed, I need to send the confirmation email. If order is cancelled, I need to send the cancellation email. So in that case, this product service, payment service, notification service, they are depending on this event or not. So if this event is not higher, is the services are going to handle that right, sending confirmation email or cancellation email, reducing the product stock or increasing the product stock? Is that possible without this functionality?
No, sir.
That means these are going to depend on this order plus event. So this is nothing but event driven communication. So order service is going to create an event, and that event is going to be subscribed by multiple subscriber. And when that event is fired, whoever the subscriber subscribe to that event, they can process the right functionality asynchronously. Asynchronously means what? Now at the same time, payment service will do its work, product service will do its work, notification service will do its work internally, and the order service is not going to wait whether these functionalities are completed or not. Its main job only fire this event and then return to the client, give the message that your order is confirmed. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, one
And you will
question
get
here.
more clarity. You will get more clarity, and once you implement this practically. Yes, please.
Sir, while I understand this pops up model, so I'm thinking this can't be achieved through web API calls made asynchronous calls to other services. Is there any challenge if we implement it using web API calls?
Web API is not, there is no challenges. You can implement this web API, but in that case, what will happen, right? In that case, from your service, you need to call multiple API call. You have to create the HTTP client, yes or no. You need to invoke the API
Yes.
endpoint, yes or no. So what? Because in that case, order, see, whenever you are implementing event-based some communication, so order service only know I have to create the event. Who are the subscriber? I have no idea. So currently, this product service is subscribed to this event. Payment service is subscribed to this event. Tomorrow, another new service will implement that is going to be subscribed to that event. But order service have no idea who are the subscriber. And coming to your point, right? If you are calling the API, then in that case, order services should have enough information how to consume the product service endpoint, how to consume the payment service, how to consume the notification service, any other service, right? Introduced tomorrow. Again, you have to come here and you have to modify the order service logic or not.
Yes.
And again, second thing, so creating the HTTP client, calling the services, is not this going to take some time?
Yeah.
So which one is
Okay.
going to give a better performance and better flexibility? This
Yeah,
event-based,
event driven. Yes.
clear?
Clear, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Now, This is another important right microservices principle, that is fault isolation. So what exactly it means? So as we have already discussed right in our last session, whenever if one service is going to be down, then that service is going to be only impacted. For example, I'm having product service, order service, payment service, user service. We have fixed some bug or we have implement one new feature on the payment service. So we deploy that payment service, but at the server, this payment service is down or it is not available or it is not working, right? So in that case, my product service, my order service, my user service, this will not be impacted. So the user can log in, sign in. The user can view the product information. The user can place the order. But while the order is placed, right, while making the payment, that payment is going to be failed. If the payment is going to be failed means what? The payment service is not working. So if something is not working, then what I need to do? We need to mark the payment status as in process, right? So we need to mark the payment status as in process. But that in process doesn't mean your order is failed. So if payment is in a pending state, means what? Your order is also going to be in a pending state. Later on, some backend service you have to create. They will check internally whether the payment is completed or not. And accordingly, we will update the payment status and accordingly, we will update the order status. Similarly, right? Similarly, if your user service is down, then user cannot log in. But that doesn't mean that payment service right? Payment backend services, whatever you have created, right, to update the payment status, to update the order status, are they going to be impacted?
No.
No. So what exactly it means? It means if one service is down, only that service is going to be impacted. And if any other service depend on that service, they might be impacted. But the complete system is not going to be down. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So next one is scalability, right? Let's assume I'm having the user service, payment service, and order service. One festival comes, and in that festival, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to handle a more number of orders. See, if your festival comes, the user is not going to increase. The user, the way the application handling the same number of user are going to be there. But the same number of user, right, they are going to place many order. Many order means what? The order service needs to be scaled and payment services needs to be scaled. So in that case, what I need to do as my order service is deployed into a separate server, my payment service is deployed into a separate server, then I can write is increase the resources, server resources. Server resources means what? I can increase the CPU, I can increase the RAM, right? I can increase the SSD. So these things I can increase for that server. And if the requirement, right, for example, you have run one campaign and you expect that for the next 7 days, I want a huge amount of users to log in into my application. Then what you need to do? Now, instead of scaling this order service and payment service, you need to scale the user service because you are expecting more number of users to be registered in the next week as I have run a one campaign. So in that case, you can only scale the user service, not the order and payment service. For example, right, let assume you run another campaign for the vendor and you are expecting that some vendors are going to be, right, many vendors are going to be registered into our application in the next 7 days. And they also, right, going to upload thousand products to our application. Then in that case, what you need to do? You need to increase the product service. So basically, as per your requirement, if you decide that for the next couple of days or next week, right, this services demand is going to be very high, then you can only scale that service, not the entire application services. So this is possible because of a microservices as we are developing each service independently. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Next one is a technology diversity, right? So what exactly it means? It means with microservices, it is not strictly that all the microservices, whatever project you develop, they all should follow the same framework, same language, same database. They are independent. For example, you can develop the payment service using ASP.NET Core API SQL Server. You can develop the order service using Spring Boot and Oracle. You can develop the user service using ASP.NET Core Identity, C# and SQL Server database. You can develop the product service using ASP.NET Core, Azure Cosmos DB or something else, right? So basically what exactly it means? It means each service can be developed independently using any technology, using any framework, and using any database. Clear or not? So, and the communication between them is going to be HTTP REST, which doesn't depend whether the services are developed using Red Java or .NET. Using asynchronous event-based communication. For that purpose, we are going to introduce a middleman like RabbitMQ, like Kafka. They are going to handle the asynchronous or event-based communication. But independent services you can develop using any framework, any programming language, any database. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? For example, for some of the people are very good at Java, they can develop the services using Java related things like Spring Boot, Oracle. If you are good at .NET Core, you can go with ASP.NET Core WebAPI and write whatever the database you choose, SQL, MySQL, whatever it may be. So that is possible. So these are the core design principle of microservices, which you need to follow, right? Which we will follow throughout our syllabus. So once you start designing the core microservices, right? That is from model 2. We'll strictly follow all these principles, whatever we discussed today. Clear, guys? If anyone having any question, they can ask me now.
Sir, I have a question. Suppose my microservice has more than one component. So I am developing one thing, one component in ASP.NET, .NET Core API, SQL Server, and another component I am also developing with ASP.NET, but .NET version is slower. Suppose one version I am using .NET 8, and for backward compressibility, a connectivity with the data reading machine, punch machine, etc., I am developing another module with lower version of .NET. Is it possible?
Why not possible? So you just tell me whether, for example, in this case, this product service and user service, both are developed using ASP.NET Core. Here you are
Yes.
using .NET 8 and here you are using .NET 6. Let assume, right? So is there
Right.
any dependency between payment and user service? So
No,
what
there is no
technology you,
dependency.
so in the user service, what technology, what framework you use, that doesn't matter with the payment service, right? But
Yes.
here, what is important? Now, whatever the packages you are going to install, that packages needs to be compatible with the version of the framework what you are using. For example, if you are using .NET 6, then if you are using JWT authentication, then that JWT authentication package must be compatible, the version whatever you are using .NET version 6,
Yes, sir.
compatible with. Clear? So there is no
Yes, sir.
dependency, anything you can. If we see, forget about .NET. If you are able to develop the service using Java, then why not .NET with a lower or higher version? Anything is possible. So what is important? So that endpoint, so whatever endpoint you provided here, that endpoint needs to be accessed by the payment service. And that end for that endpoint, that is nothing but RESTful services that is going to be consumed by anyone in the world, right? Whether a mobile application, desktop application, IoT, anyone can consume, right? So that is not an issue. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir, even if the microservices is a technology diversity, then how come the intercommunication services is handled
See,
in
again, see,
ASP and Java?
I have told you two things you need to take into consideration. One is the inter-service communication are happening in two ways. One is HTTP based, or you can say using RESTful API. Another one is using some message broker. So in case of a HTTP RESTful API, here you need to provide some endpoint. So and this service needs to consume that endpoint. Is there any issue by consuming the endpoint for internal communication? So the
Mm,
way client is consuming the services, similarly another service will consume the services in the same way using the RESTful API. That is synchronous communication. And coming to your point, how it is going to be for asynchronous? That for that asynchronous communication, we are going to use some middleman, RabbitMQ, Kafka. They will come into the picture and they will handle this internal communication. Clear? So they will receive the data from this service. They will transfer the data to the other service. That internal communication is going to be handled by How they are going to handle, that is what we are going to learn. Clear?
Hello,
Yes.
hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello,
Yes, yes, please ask your question.
sir. I want to ask one question. Is that, sir? Suppose we, as you are teaching, sir, you are guiding us. There is a n number of services like order service and payment service and a like a user service. Now suppose while I'm placing a order, okay sir, my order is confirmed, from the product service I have to be store only the product ID in order database, or should I do the data warehousing? Because in some as I'm working on a very vast and very big infrastructure, so in that we daily receiving 10,000 order, right sir? So in that case, in this scenario, we have to go with the normalization while storing the product detail in order database, because as we that all are the separated SRP, single responsibility kind of system we are following. So at that time, okay sir, so at that time we have to be do the normalization of the product, only we store the product ID in order database, or we should store with the product ID, product detail, product name only, and product group, product category, all should be, because at the time of retrieving the order detail, again we have to be hit the product service to get the product detail like product name, category name, all this, because we had stored only the ID. Sir, what is your suggestion? Because if
Yes.
there is a scenario of a government infrastructure kind of
Got
projects.
it. I got your point, right? So in that case, both option is feasible, right? If you are getting millions of requests per day, so along with the product ID, you can store the product name and the price, right? Whenever you are placing the order, so we are storing the data in two tables. What are the tables? One is the order table, another one is the order items table, right? So in the order items table, along with the product ID, you can store the product name and the price. That is what we need now. Or
Sir,
whenever we are getting the
yes
order
sir,
information,
yes
only
sir.
these two additional two columns you can put that can handle. And in that case, you do not need to go to the products table.
So this is a good practice, sir, or is a what, sir?
That is a good practice. But what is happening in that case, right? If the product name is changed, right? Then
Yeah.
if you are putting the order history, then it will not show the right current product name. Whatever the product name provided at the time of a purchase, that name will become, and that is also good approach, right? Why? Because when I'm placing the order, what should be the product name? While right, checking the order history, it should show the same name.
Sir, this is the what happening in our last project. No, sir, there is a Usmanabad, or that now like Aurangabad. Now it's comes to Chhatrapati Shivaji Sambhaji Nagar. Okay, sir. So at the time of that, we had issue a certificate in the name of Aurangabad. Now, in sense, sir, on that time, what is the name? That is the more important rather than doing the everywhere
Yes,
normalization. So I
exactly.
had
That is what
this
I'm
my,
saying.
I think sir, because we have to do the data warehousing, because
Yes.
Amazon is also displaying all the previous order detail in a very quick time, so we
Yes.
have to go with the
See,
denormalization, sir.
that concept, right? Whatever we want to do is, right? It is not in our hand. So who will decide whether to show the right original name, right? Whatever we are purchasing, or should provide the current name. So that will decide by the client. The client requirement is that no, if the order name is changed, we have to provide the current name. No, no. Otherwise, if the client want no, no, at the time of a purchase, whatever the product name, that should be shown, right? Whenever the user fetching the order history, so it is completely based on the right client requirement. We cannot decide by our own. We can only give the suggestion. So this is option A. This is option B. In option A, this is happening. In option B, this is happening. What option you need to decide? So that will be
but
the client
but sir,
requirement.
70% I think so we should follow the denormalization while storing the product ID.
That is
We
what I'm
should go with
saying.
the product
So that
ID
is
and
what
product
I'm
name.
saying. See, that is what I'm saying. We are having both the options. Which options to be used? That will be decided by the client, not by us.
But sir, technically, otherwise we have to that call will increase to fetch the product detail from the
See,
order
you are
service
not
every
getting, you
time.
are not getting, you are not getting my point. So whenever you are saying this thing, you need to tell what is the advantages with this approach, what is the advantages with that
Okay,
approach.
okay, sir.
We
Okay.
are saying
Thank you,
with
sir.
this
Thank
approach,
you.
it will take some more time. In that
Yes,
case, it will
yes.
not take more time, right? But it will not give you the current or updated product information. Whatever the old information, that will be retrieved. So this information we need to tell to the client, and the client will decide, okay, I'm fine with the performance. I don't mind if it is taking more time, but I want to show the updated information. Then you have to go with that option.
Yeah. Thank you,
Second
sir.
thing is that,
Thank you.
right? Second option is that, right? For example, earlier the client purchased some product. Later on, those products are deleted from the database, right? If you are fetching the order history, then as the product ID is no longer active or no longer available, then you might face the issue. These things you need to inform to the client. Whatever the right positiveness with this approach, whatever the positiveness of that approach, according client will decide. Clear?
Clear, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
So now, next, anyone having any more question before proceeding to clean architecture?
Sir, I do have one question. The event-driven communication. So you said
Yes.
that the order service will be like, producer, and the other two services like product as well as the payment services like, consumer kind of thing.
Yes.
Say
So see,
you,
for this particular scenario, it is the producer, it is the consumer. For example, if you are
yeah,
taking the payment service into consideration, once the payment is confirmed, right? At
yeah,
that time,
yeah,
you need to send one payment confirmation email. So in that case,
yeah.
payment service is going to be the producer, sending that email notification is going to be the consumer. So whoever
Yeah,
creating
but
the event, that is going to be the producer. Yes, please.
my question is like whenever the order services produce the message to server, so that time, let's say payment service is down at that time. So
Mhm.
whenever the payment services is up and running again, so that time there will be a lot of messages in the queue. So how it is going to behave? So is there like, kind of we need to
See,
increase
see,
again
see,
scalability?
there is a right approach we are going to implement like retry, circuit broker, right, poly. So they are going to handle this thing very effectively, right? Retry approach is going to be that they will try to send the mail one by one, right? And until and unless they are not sent, right, they are going to be in pending state, right? And once the server is off, then again, right? So it is the responsibility it is not the responsibility of the product service or payment service that is going to be handled by the middleware, right? For example, Kafka, RabbitMQ, whatever we are going to create, who will handle this event-based communication, they will handle this thing very efficiently, right? So they know, right, whichever services are right off and whether they right, send a notification or not. So if send the notification, that is fine. If not send, if notification is not sent or email is not sent, then they are going to right invoke the API again and again, right? So for example, first time not happening, second time not happening, you have said that try with it 3 times. If not happening, then please wait and after right again, right? And this is going to be background services, right? You know what do you mean by background services?
Yes.
Right? Background services means they are going to be run periodically. So immediately they are going to run. Otherwise, you have to create some kind of services which is going to run periodically in every 5 minutes of every 30 minutes,
Yeah,
whichever are they are going to
auto
process.
system.
Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
is going to automatically going to handle
Yeah.
these things. Clear?
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So all these things we are going to discuss, right? How to automate this thing, right? Those who have already attended my ASP.NET courses, we have already discussed how to process the thing in the background by creating some kind of a scheduler. Now let us try to understand, right? What is the clean architecture, right? This is very, very important. Let us try to understand. So can anybody tell me, anyone having any idea related to clean architecture?
It should be the layered.
Yes. See, nowadays, whenever we develop one application, right? Once you complete the application, do you think that your coding is over? You develop the application development is completed. Do you think that in future you are not going to fix any bug? You are not going to add any new feature? You are not
No,
going to extend the existing feature? Is that fixed? Or it is 100% you will get some bug, 100% you will need to enhance any existing model, 100% you are going to add any new model? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. So the architecture what you use to develop the application, that will decide how easily you are going to manage the future changes. You are going to manage the future enhancement. If your application architecture is very good, you can easily manage this future changes enhancement. If your application is not that good, then you cannot easily manage this thing very confidently. So the architecture, what we are going to discuss is clean architecture. So the clean architecture basically developed by Robert C. Martin. So how many of you know the name Robert C. Martin, who is popularly known as Uncle Bob? Anyone heard Uncle Bob or Robert C. Martin? Just Google it, right? You will get more information about to him, right? So the uncle Robert C. Martin or Uncle Bob, right? He developed this architecture. The main objective of this architecture is to divide the application into multiple layers, where each layer is going to have distinct responsibility. So basically, they divide the application into four different layers. What are the layer? Can anybody tell me? One layer is domain layer. What is the next layer? Guys, tell me.
Application.
Infrastructure layer. What is the name? Infrastructure. Infrastructure layer. The third one is
Application.
application layer. The fourth one is
API.
that is you can say interface adapter layer. Right? So these are the fourth layer. This interface adapter layer also called as your presentation layer. Clear? So these are the four layers. So each layer having its own distinct responsibility. So now let us try to understand what are the distinct responsibility of each layer. Can anybody tell me what is the job of a domain layer?
They create the entity and their relations.
Okay. So you have to create the
Yes.
entity and their relationship. Entities and a relationship. Anything else?
Models.
Logics.
So this whenever I'm saying entities, this is also
That's model.
there are also models. So this is also same. Entities and the relationship. Anything else?
Any business logics?
No business logic. Domain layer
No.
means no business logic. Right? What operations? Right? What operations to be performed? What operations to be, what I can say, what operation to be performed on these entities. See, in this case, you need to define what operations to be performed on these entities, not how. You have to remember the difference between what and how. So what operation means what? Now, in this case, right, specifically, you can define the repository interfaces. So here, you can define the repository interfaces only. No implementation, repository interfaces. So, for example, there is an entity called a product. On product entity, what are the operations you need to define? Get by ID, get all, right? Add, update, delete, right? Whatever all operations you need to define on the product entity, whatever all operation you need to define on the customer entity, order entity, payment entity. So those operations are going to be defined here, not the implementation part. So only what operation to be performed on these entities, not a how. How means the actual implementations. So in the domain layer, what basically we need to define? We need to define the entities or a model and their relationship, and what operations to be performed means only the repository interfaces. Clear?
Yes.
Clear or not? Now, I'll show you
Yes,
these
sir.
things. In the infrastructure layer, right, you can say, what are the things you need to define? See, first of all, how you are going to communicate with the database. So you can say this
We
infrastructure
got
layer, you can consider as data access layer, right? How you are going to, not the data access layer. So basically, what I can say, it is the layer which is going to communicate with the external wall. So this layer will communicate with the external wall. So external world means what? See, your database and your application and the database. For your application, database is internal or external?
External.
External, sir.
So if you want to consume some third-party services, they are going to be external or not?
Yes.
External.
Right? So basically, those implementations needs to be defined here. For example, I want to implement entity framework or code first approach or entity framework or communicate with the database. So for that purpose, first of all, what you need a DP context class. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yes.
Right? So this DB context class is going to be there. So here you defined what operations to be performed, and here how these operations to be performed. How these operations to be performed. Right? So please, if you are not getting right, please right, ask me immediately. This is very, very important. How these operations to be performed means what? Can anybody tell me? Na repository implementation classes. Repository implementation. So where this repository interface is defined, the repository interface is defined here, and that repository interface implement here. Clear? So here you define the entities, what operations to be performed. Here you define the DB context and how these operations to be performed, right? Whether you are using database, right, ADO.NET Core, whether you are using, right, entity framework core, whether you are using a Dapper, whether you are using SQL Server database, Oracle database. So this information is not covered by the domain layer. So domain layer only define the domain entities and it decides what operations to be performed. This interface infrastructure layer, it is going to decide how these operations to be defined, what is defined in the domain layer, how this is going to be implemented. So any external operations, right? Any external operations means if you want to consume some, right, what I can say, APIs, if you are consuming some APIs, if you are sending some emails, right? So emails, SMS. So these are nothing but your external world. So these are going to be implemented as part of your interface infrastructure layer. Here, so here you need to define entities, define what are the operations to be performed. Here, define the DB context and implement how these operations are going to be performed. Whether to use ADO.NET Core, Entity Framework Core, whether to use Oracle database, MySQL database. These things are going to be decided by the infrastructure layer, and external things like sending email, sending consuming external APIs, sending SMS. So this is also going to be part of your infrastructure layer. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Now coming to this application layer, guys, tell me what are the things I need to define here.
You need to define business logic.
Implementation of the methods. All the handlers, complete business logic. Request and
Data
response.
access layer.
Request and response is going to be defined by API layer. So here, first of all, you need to define DTOs. So what do you mean by DTOs? Can anybody tell me?
Data transfer object.
Right, data transfer object. So whatever the data you want to expose or you want to take from the client, so those object is going to be defined. Guys, remember these entities and these DTOs, they might be look same, but they are different. So entities means it is going to define the structure of your data in the database. Entities is going to define the structure of your data. Whatever the data you are going to store in the database, they are going to define the structure. DTOs means whatever the data you want to expose and you want to get from the client. So that is going to be defined by the DTOs. For example, let's take the example of a user entity. So in user entity, you are having user ID, you are having created by, you are having password, you are having modified by, you are having role. So this DTO, right, right, while you are going to create one new user, does I need the user ID from the client?
No.
No. Does I need to take the role? What is the default role? No. Does I need to take the created by, modified by, created on, modified on? So basically, whatever minimum data is required for creating a new user, that data we need to take from the client. Now you might have questions, sir, why you are not exposing these entities? If I'm exposing this entities, user entity, then the user is going to provide some data. Now you might have one question, sir. No issue. The user can provide the user ID role created by modified ad, but we are not going to use that data in our application. We'll update those information. That is also possible. But what is the downside? Downside is that the user is going to send some unnecessary data. And if you are sending more data over the internet, it is going to take more time, or if you are sending less data, it is going to take more time. Which is going to take more time?
Less data.
Less data. And that is what you will achieve by using DTOs. Sometimes what happens, right? For example, now in your entity, you are storing user first name and last name. You are storing first name and last name. And your client requirement is, I don't want two field. I want a single field, right, where I need to return the data. So in that case, you can, in the DTO, you can create a one field that is full name. And that full name is going to combine the first name and the last name values. So basically, if any additional properties are required, for example, while you are creating a user, you need to take the client ID as part of the request body. But that client ID I'm not going to store in the database. So in the DTO, you can include that client ID. So this DTO, mostly they are going to contain the data which is available in the entities, but additionally, they are going to add some more properties, and additionally, they are going to remove some existing properties which are available here. So DTOs you have to use for effective data transmission between the client and server. They will ensure what data is required by the client server that is going to be sent by the client. They will also ensure what data needs to be returned to the client instead of returning all the informations. Clear?
Sir, is DTO act as a view model here?
Yes, this DTO is nothing but your view model. For view model, whatever the data is required, that what you are passing using view model. Similarly, whatever the data is required by your application, that is going to be read sent by, or that is going to be received by DTOs.
DTO.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Apart from this, right, your application business application layer means all the validation logic, all the, right, what I can say, business logic, no data access logic, all the validation logic, all the business logic is going to be implemented in this layer. For example, you want to ensure, right, whenever the customer going to place one order, that customer ID should be there, that customer ID should be exist. So for that purpose, by taking that customer ID, you will call the right infrastructure layer get by ID method to get the customer data. Then you will check whether the customer exists or not. For example, the user placing one order, you need to ensure at least one product should be there. Whatever the product stock provided by the user, and that should be less than the available stock in the database, right? So, right, by applying the right individual amount multiplied by the quantity, I will get the total amount of each line item. I am going to add this total amount with all the line item so that I will get the order total amount. So this business logic, right, you have to implement in the application layer. And for implementing this, what you need to do here, you need to define service interfaces and service, as tell me, implementation classes. Clear?
Yeah,
And
clear,
guys,
sir.
remember, whenever you are developing a real-time application, always go with interface-based approach. Define the interface, declare whatever functions to be defined, then implement that interface, right? What is the benefit? Benefit is that you can easily unit test the functionality, right? And again, we are also going to discuss unit testing. So we 100% needs to follow the industry best practices. So here DTOs is going to be there, service interface is going to be there, right? You can also define here what mapping. Mapping logic means, guys, what is the meaning of mapping? Now, for example, here you are getting the data in the form of a DTO. But if I'm going to call the repository class, then I need to convert this DTO into this entity-teacher model or not,
Then entity model, like
Yeah.
entity model.
right? Similarly, if I'm going to retrieve the data, for example, I invoke the order method, right? To get order by ID method, and I'm getting the order entity here. That order entity I'm not going to return. So what I need to do, I need to convert that order entity into order DTO. So that mapping is also going to be defined as part of the application layer. So here it is going to perform the operations how? Now by consuming the, you can say domain layer, right? Consuming domain layer and infrastructure layer. Right? It is going to use both these things. So there is a dependency on both, right? Right? What I can say, domain layer. So from your application layer, you should have reference to this domain layer, and you should have reference to this infrastructure layer. So it is going to perform the operation. So once the business logic is implemented, right? Once the business logic is implemented, then you need to either update the data, create the data, modify the data, delete the data. For that purpose, this application layer is going to use the infrastructure layer, because this is the layer which is going to perform the operation over the database. Clear? Clear or no?
Yes, sir.
And right, Susan, please don't raise your hand, right? This is going to be coming in the UI script. And please don't put raise hands, don't do anything. Any question, guys, just unmute yourself and ask me.
Okay, sir.
So, right, that will be good. So, interface adapter layer means this is the last layer. What is the role? Now, in this layer is going to handle the incoming HTTP request and the response. The client application is going to consume this layer. Whatever the data required by the server, that is going to be sent by the client, that is HTTP request. And whatever the data it wants to return, that is also part of the right interface adapter layer. So inside this layer, what we need to define? We need to define API controllers. Clear? So this API controller, it is only going to have the DTO validation logic, nothing else. Whatever the data sent by the right, what I can say, client, that DTO validation, whether the required field, minimum field, max field. So this basic validation. Actual validation is going to be handled by the application layer. Only DTO validation logic is going to be there, nothing else. And this API layer will consume the application layer services to perform the right to handle the incoming HTTP request. So these are the four different layer, and what is the role and responsibility of each layer in clean architecture. Clear, guys? If this is not clear at the moment, don't worry. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to implement one application, and that will give you more clarity now. So before that, can anybody see? Now let us try to understand what is the benefit of this approach. So we have already discussed.
Yeah, hi, sir.
Yes.
In our application, in the presentation there, we will use Swagger or Postman or any other UI layer. Means in the Blazor pages, what we will be using.
See that Swagger, that Postman, they are not right layer. They are the client tool to consume or to test your functionality.
Yes.
So Swagger is not a layer. Postman is not a layer. They are the client tools, or you can say they are the client. And using that client, you can test whether your function, your applications, right, whatever endpoint you created, whether they are working as expected. Or they are client tool. Clear?
Yes. Clear.
And sir,
Are we following DDD?
Yeah, DDT. Next example, I'm going to discuss how to develop the application using DDT. So in DDT, we are giving more priority to this domain layer. So I will explain the application architecture is going to be like this. Little bit changes is going to be there. But yes, the next session, right, tomorrow I'm going to discuss DDT. Clear?
So,
now,
one question regarding
yes,
this clean architecture. So, ORM or any entity framework, it should be in application layer, right?
No. Entity so what I have mentioned.
Infrastructure layer.
Where my DB context is there, where repository implementation is there.
Okay. All the implementation of the and the migration one is also in the infrastructure layer, right?
Yes. So that is part of your infrastructure layer. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a single application using all this layer, right, using separate folder. And tomorrow when I'm going to discuss the DDT, at that time I will show you the completely real-time application development you need to create this domain layer as a separate project, infrastructure layer as a separate project, application layer as a separate project, interface adapter layer as a separate project. So that is what I'm going to discuss tomorrow using DTT. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement the application using a single application, and for each layer I'm going to create separate folder. But that is not the
Sir,
right. But in tomorrow I will show you how to develop the each layer as a different project, and how you can refer to that project. I mean, for infrastructure layer, I need these entities and whatever the operations defined. Then this project should have a reference to this domain layer. How you can do this, I will show you tomorrow with the DTT. But now let us try to understand this from the higher level point of view. How you can
sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, sir, where we can say the business logic is going to be, is in the infrastructure layer or in the application layer?
What I mentioned here. So if you are getting confused, so right, let me change this application logic layer name to business logic layer. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is going to be your business logic layer.
Actually, what is
Hello.
the meaning of DTOs? I have my internet was disconnected. So can you explain
Sorry,
once
sir?
in short?
Sorry?
DTO in application layer.
Yes, DTO is going to be application layer because the service interface and implementation, they will work with the DTO. This repository interface and implementation, they will work with the entities. So in this case, whenever the data is received, it will be received via this entity model. And whenever the application layer received or return the data, it will receive and return the data via DTO. And in this layer, that is the reason of why we are having this mapping. So this mapping is going to map the DTOs to entities or from entities to DTOs. Guys, give me 1 minute. Yeah. Anyone having any question, guys?
Hello, sir.
Question.
Hello. Yeah,
Yes,
we need to
one by
we
one,
need
one
to
by
have
one.
yeah after this DTO, like we need to have the validator as well, na? So to validate the like
What I'm
whatever the
saying, yes. So in this logic, what I'm saying, the service interface and the implementation. So this implementation classes means it includes your validation logic, right? Your business logic, and the logic to invoke, right? Invoke the right infrastructure method,
yeah
infrastructure layer methods, right? Clear?
yeah clear.
Right? But here you have to remember two things, right? That the DTM validation is going to be handled by the API layer. So whatever the data annotation attribute and all these things, right, you apply, that is automatically going to be handled by this layer. In this layer, that other validation to check whether the customer ID exists or not, right? That what you need to check here. But in this layer, whether the user provided the customer ID, you have to remember two things. Customer ID provided by the user or not, that is one validation required field. And here, whether the customer ID, whatever the provided by the user is exist or not in the database, that is secondary thing. So that minimum, that DTO level validation is going to be handled by this layer. But application level validation is going to be handled by this layer. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Does each entity evolve as a single microservice?
Sorry?
In the domain layer, we have entities, right? So does that mean that each entity will be a separate microservice?
Yes. So if you are creating one microservice for product, then that product project, you should have a domain layer which is going to store product related entities. Similarly, if you are creating user microservice, in user microservice, you should have a domain layer project where you need to create already user related entities. So this is going to be, I'm showing for one service, and this is going to be common for all the services. Clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Right. So anyone else having any question before proceeding to
Yes,
the
yes, sir.
development?
I have some experience in a repository pattern, so I consider the clean architecture is similar to repository pattern, but it is the advanced version of repository pattern.
In this case, the repository pattern is just one part, right? What I can say, one part. So this is just one mechanism to invoke the methods. But apart from repository pattern, entities is going to be there. Repository, in your case, what you are defining in the single project, you are defining the entities, you are creating the DB context, you are creating the repository interface and the implementation class. But in this case, each is going to be a separate project, and in each project, the role and responsibilities are defined. So in the domain layer, you have to define the entities and interfaces. That interfaces is needs to be implemented here. Repository pattern, that is just a part to write what I can say, implement the logic to invoke the data access things, right? So that
Yes,
is
sir.
just a part, but not the
Yes.
clean architecture,
Yes, sir.
right? If you are
The layers are loosely coupled with each other.
exactly. Exactly. So in this case, right, these are layer loosely coupled. So let us try to understand, right? Once we implement this application, you will get better clarity, right? So you can say this is domain layer, application layer, interface adapter layer, infrastructure layer. What is the role and responsibility of each layer? We have already discussed, right? So now let us try to implement this, right, with one application. So basically, one product management application I'm going to discuss a simple application. Tomorrow I will give you more better application, right, with DDT, with a separate project for each layer. But now let us try to understand this clean architecture, what we discussed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project, ASP.NET Core Web API project. So that project is going to be Hub, right? This is my Web API project. This is, I give the project name as product management. Any name you can give. Click on the create button. So in this project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use entity framework core code first approach. Generally, I as a guy, right? I generally follow to develop the application using EF core. 90% of time I'm using EF core. 10% time database first approach. But I generally not prefer database first approach. But yes, as that mechanism is exists, so I also give you some example using right database first approach, or you can say using ADO.NET core. But most of the time, 90% of time, I'm going to use entity framework or code first approach, which people generally write things that is very difficult to manage. But for me, it is very easy to manage. Right. So once you create the project, next what you need to do, as I'm going to use SQL Server as my backend database, and as I'm going to use entity framework core as the data access technology. So what I'm going to do next is I need to install the required packages. So basically, I'm going to install two packages. You can see one package is Microsoft.entity framework or .SQL Server. So what is this package? Can anybody tell me?
It will integrate SQL Server facility with your Visual Studio.
Exactly. So this is the database provider or entity framework core, which is going to use the SQL Server database, right? And what is the use of the second package, entity framework core tools?
Entity framework. It will
Like writing any queries
It is
in
useful
SQL.
for
Migrations.
So this,
Connections
this
For
to
migration,
SQL.
maybe.
exactly. So this package will help you to generate the migration file and to apply the migration file so that your code base is going to be synced with the database. So these two packages we need to install. And this second package, it is not specific to your database provider. So this first package is important, right? So this package is going to be changed from database to database, but this is a common package, right? So let me install these two packages first of all. So you can install these packages using package manager for solution or using package manager console by using this install package command. So whatever the install package, that is my driver command. And then I need to provide my package which I want to install. So just press the enter button, which will install the package. And guys, remember, whenever you are using this install package, it is always going to install the latest version. If you want to install the previous version, then you have to go to that other option, that is solution, and you can select, right, whichever version you want to use. And with .NET 8, this is fine, and it is compatible. The .NET 9, right, Entity Framework Core 9 is compatible with .NET 8, so I can install. So once this is done, right, then what I need to do, I need to start with the domain layer. So in domain layer, Basically, what is there? Now, one is entities and another one is repository interfaces. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to create a folder. So guys, in this example, I'm creating all these things within the single project. Tomorrow, I will show you how you can create a separate project for each layer. So in this case, I'm going to create one folder called a domain, which is going to be my domain layer. And in the domain folder, right, I'm going to define two things. One is entities, another one is repositories. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first of all create one folder called entities within this domain layer where I'm going to define all my entities. So not a class file. So it should be a folder first, entities. And again, another folder I'm going to define that is going to be my repositories, right? So two folders I'm going to define within my domain folders, two subfolders. One is entities and another one is repositories. For entities and repositories, why? Because I'm going to define the entities and I'm going to define the repository. So in this example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple product management system. Tomorrow, I'm going to give you more complicated real-time scenarios. But for now, just a single entity, single repository, everything. Tomorrow, multiple entities, related entities, multiple repository interfaces, and complicated example, right? Let us start with this one. So let me first of all go ahead and create the entities product entity. So this entity is going to contain my data, whichever required for the database, and some validation, right? Some validation is also going to be there. So you can say this is my product entity, product ID. It is going to be my identity. So automatically this is going to my identity because this is going to be the primary key and it is also going to be the unique identifier, and identity is also going to be there. So by default, any property which is name as ID or product on product ID, that is going to be the primary key. So how many of you are good with entity framework code? Because this is required, right? I'm not going to discuss right the core entity framework core concept because entity framework core itself going to take 15 sessions. Those who have already completed my ASP.NET core session, they know entity framework core minimum 15 days is required to understand the concept very detailed. But for now, whatever requirement, that is what I'm going to discuss. So this is going to my primary key, and these are nothing but my data annotation attribute. So what exactly this data annotation attribute means? This required attribute will mark this column as a required field, and maximum 100 characters are allowed. This minimum length attribute, it have no impact on the database side. So it have impact, right? It has impact on the client side. So it is not going to create the column with minimum length. So whenever you are creating any SQL server column, so there is only you can specify the what is the maximum number of a character allowed for that column, no minimum. And this minimum length, it is only for the server side. So this is my description. You can see I'm putting a question mark, which will mark this column as a nullable column and maximum 500 characters are there. Okay, let me remove this minimum length because we are going to use DTO, and in the DTO we are going to apply the client side validation. So this is my price, and for price I'm using the column annotation attribute. Why? Because by default it is going to be 18,2. If you want, you can specify what is the maximum number of digits, and after decimal how many digits are going to be there. So that is what I'm saying, maximum 12 digit, and after decimal 2 digits are going to be there. Price, this is the minimum value and this is the maximum value, that what I have applied. Similarly, this is my stock quantity, maximum, minimum 0, maximum whatever the value you set. For example, let assume I want to store a default value of 1000 stock maximum. You can increase that as per your requirement. And this is my validated business rule that whenever I'm creating one product, that price should not be less than equals to 0 and stock should not be less than 0. Stock can be 0, but it should not be less than 0. Price cannot be 0 and cannot be negative. So this is my business rule. So in the domain entity, right, you have to provide the domain related validation rules, domain related validations, and the entities, right, whatever you want to define. So this is going to be my product entity. Clear? Anyone having any question?
Clear.
Clear?
No,
Everybody?
sir. No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Now next what I need to
Hello.
do, as per our this entity we have defined, next repository interface, right? So now let us proceed and create the iProduct repository. So if you remember what I have discussed here, what operation to be performed on these entities, not how. Means what? Only the interface is there. Interface means only the declaration is going to be there within the repository. So let me go ahead and add a class file. So this is going to be iProduct repository. So iProduct repository, and here I need to define all the operations that are going to be performed on the product entity. So one operation is going to retrieve all the product, get by product ID, how to add a new product, how to update an existing product, and how to delete a product by ID. So these are the different operations that what we need to perform. And again, guys, remember, whenever you are going to perform some external, whenever you are going to perform some IO operations, then that operation needs to be marked as asynchronous. Sir, what do you mean by IO operation? IO operation means whenever your application going to communicate with the other system. Sir, what do you mean by other system? For example, from your application, you are communicating with the database. So your application and database, they are different. That is nothing but IO operation. Whenever you are going to communicate with your external text file, so you are going to log the data. That is nothing but one IO operation. Whenever you are going to consume the external services, that services is developed and deployed somewhere else, and your system is going to consume those services. So this is nothing but IO operation. So whenever you are going to perform these operations, it is mandatory to use asynchronous program. Why? What benefit you will get? The benefit you will get, the thread which is not going to be blocked. If you are using synchronous programming, until and unless your application not get the data from the database, until and unless the external service not return the data, that thread is going to be blocked within your server. And if the more number of threads are blocked, that means you cannot handle more number of client requests. If the thread is released, then the same thread can access the client request. So that is the reason why asynchronous programming is mandatory whenever you are performing some high consuming, time consuming operations like IO operations. Now, so is this method is clear? What are the operations we need to perform on the product entity?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Next, what I need to do, guys, next I need to implement the infrastructure layer. So in the infrastructure layer, I will implement this DP context and I will provide implementation for this iProduct repository. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to create a folder called infrastructure at the project root directory. So let me go ahead and a new folder, that is name is going to be infrastructure. And in this infrastructure folder, first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a folder called data. So here I need to define my DB context. And again, I need to create another folder, that is name is going to be repository, where I'm going to define the implementation of the repository interface. So within the data folder, I'm going to create my DB context, which will be the backbone for data communication using entity framework code. He will enable the communication between your client application and the database. So in this application, in the database, so whichever entity is there, for that entity, I need to create a DB set property. So this will create a table with the name products in the database. And here, while I'm initializing, while I'm generating the migration file, I'm also going to provide some initial domain data. So this is nothing but the concept of a database seeding. So while you are generating the migration and when you apply that migration for the first time, so this data is going to be inserted into the products table, And again, guys, remember, whenever you are using the database seeding, primary key column value you need to provide explicitly, and that must be unique. So if you are not providing this column value, it will not work, and you cannot provide any duplicate value also. And here ID is going to my primary key, so I'm going to provide this value. So this is this is also the identity column, but when you are using database seeding, you have to provide that identity column value. And from other places, you do not need to provide the identity column value. And this is my DB context class inheriting from the DB context class from the this is provided by the entity framework code. And if your class inherited from the DB context, then all the flexibility, all the methods what I can say, add method, update method, remove method, save changes, everything is possible, and those method you can invoke using this application DB context, So this class is clear.
Yes.
So this is the basic
Yes.
concept, And I assume you all guys are having good experience into entity framework core. So this is my what I can say, the big context. Now what I need to do, this is my interface, and that interface I need to implement in the infrastructure layer. So let me go ahead and create a class file product repository. And this class file is going to implement the iProduct interface and provide implementation for all the interface methods, right? Very simple. This is my product repository inheriting from the iProduct repository. To perform the database operation, first of all, I need to inject my application DB context instance, and that instance is going to be provided by the framework, right? How the framework is going to provide? We'll register this application DB context within the dependency injection container of the ASP.NET Core framework, and that framework will take the responsibility of creating an instance. And by default, this is going to be scoped instance. Scoped means one instance per request, right? So in this case, I'm injecting that DB context instance through the constructor, and the framework will create and manage that instance. And once you got the instance, then you can perform the operation. So this is my get all async method. So what exactly this method is going to return? All the product. So context dot products. What is the use of as no tracking here? Can anybody tell me?
Entity state will not be tracked actually.
Exactly. So by default, in this case, whenever you are retrieving some read-only data and you sure that this data is not going to be updated. So in that case, right, what you need to do, you need to use this method as no tracking to improve the performance. That is a right. And again, as you can see, my action method, I mean, my method is asynchronous. So I have to call this a toList async. If it is not asynchronous, then you need to simply call the toList method. So this is the data, and this is my getY_ID method. So it is going to return the right product ID, product information based on the ID. This is my add async method. So it is going to add that product to the product context object. It will mark, in this case, what will happen? It will mark the entity state as added, and this statement will insert the data into the database. Clear? Clear? So whenever you are calling this add async method, it will only add this product into the context object with the state as added. And when you call the step changes method, it will generate the insert statement based on the added statement, and that insert statement is going to be executed on the data. And then, so who is unmute? Okay, let me unmute everybody. Okay. So this is going to be add a new product. This is going to update an existing product, and this is going to delete one product. First of all, we'll verify whether the product is available or not. If product is not available, we are not going to do anything else. If product is available, we are removing that product, and then right, this remove method means it will mark the entity state as right deleted. Right, and then when you call this step changes method, delete SQL statement is going to be generated, and here the entity state will be add as modified, and when you call this step changes method, update statement is going to be generated, and that is going to be executed on the database. So when you add, it is going to be in added state. When you update, it is going to be in update state, and when you delete, it is going to be in deleted state. But until and unless you are not calling this step changes method, these changes will not be made permanent into the database. So calling these step changes is mandatory if you want these changes to be applicable in the database. So is that clear? So what this method right are doing in this class? Clear or not?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Right. So next what I need to do, I need to create my application layer. So currently in this case, I don't want to use any external APIs, right? That is what we will see right in our real-time applications, right? But this is also applicable. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the application layer. So first of all, create a folder named application. So in the application layer, now we are going to create three things. What are the things? First of all, I need to create the DTOs. So let me create a folder called DTO, where I need to define the DTO which are required for performing the operations. So how many DTOs are required? So one DTO to retrieve the product information, another DTO for creating a new product, another DTO for updating a product, right? While creating the product, I don't need the product ID. That is going to be generated by the system. But when I'm updating the product, I need the product ID, because based on the product ID only, it is going to update the product information. So let us proceed and create this DTOs first. So first of all, this is going to my product DTO. So whatever the information I want to return, that information I'm going to return by using this product DTO entity. It is very similar to your, right, what I can say, product entity. You can see ID name, description, price tag, and same ID name, description, price tag I'm also storing here. Right? If you want, you can write For example, instead of name, if you want, you can also modify the product name. So modification is also possible. Later on, I will show you how to create effectively, multiple product. Right. I mean, the next example, what we are going to discuss, that is going to be more complicated. More complicated in the sense the DTOs properties are going to be vary from model properties, right? But in this case, both are going to have same DTOs. Now, I'm going to create DTO. For creating a new product, do I need the product ID, guys?
No.
In this case, you can see
No.
I'm creating this product DTO with name, description, price, and stock. No product ID. Why? Because I don't need the product ID for creating a new product. Now, for updating the product information, do I need product ID?
Yes.
Right. So that is what I'm going to do here. Now you can see it is going to have the product ID. You can do options, right? What options? You can define this comment, you can comment, and you can inherit from, right? What I can say, create product data. That is possible. So one option, whatever the properties available here, they are going to be inherited here. Other option, no, I don't want to do this. I want to specify, I want to explicitly specify what properties are required. So this is the second option. Both are going to do the same thing. Whichever option, right? Whichever options you like, you can do it, right? Both options are fine. So once this is done, then what I need to do, I need to define the services, right? So first of all, what I need to do, I need to create a folder called services, and where I need to define the product services and their implementation classes. So let me go ahead and create a folder called services. And within the services, let me first add two class file. One is what I can say, iProduct service. Another one is the implementation class. The iProduct service is going to define what all operations are to be performed on the products layer, right? And these services are going to be consumed by the client. So here you can see the client application is going to consume the controller. Controller is going to deal with the TTO. TTO means they are going to consume the services layer. So these services means they are going to deal with the TTO. Here you can see get all product, get product by ID, add product, update product, and delete product. And here it is returning the product to TTO. And it is also taking the data in the form of a create product and an update product to TTO. This service class is clear to all? Clear or
Yes.
not?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Next, what I need to do, I need to create its implementation class, right? So let me go ahead and create the product service. So this product service is going to implement the iProduct service interface. It will have the business logic, validation logic, and the logic to store the data into the database. That means the infrastructure layer logic, right? So here you can see I have injected the iProduct repository interface. So here you can see it is not going to deal. So you have to guys remember. So there are two things. One is interface-based approach. So here, as I'm using iProduct repository, so he doesn't know what is the implementation class, whether that is implemented by product repository mock, product repository demo, no idea. And that is the benefit of implementing this loose coupling approach. In this case, what operations are defined, right, in the domain layer, those operations are going to be consumed by this layer, right? So these are the method. So these method are going to be consumed by this layer. So here, this is the map to DTO method. You can see it is going to map the product to product DTO. Simple logic I have written because this method I'm going to use at multiple places. So I'm creating this as a helper method which will map the product to product DTO. Now, so get all products. So to get all products, what I need to do, I need to call the iProduct repository get all async method. And that is, and how to call? Now by using this iProduct repository instance. So here you can see I'm calling the repository instance. It is retrieving the return products, and that products I need to store inside this DTO, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm looping through all the product, adding each product right to one by one to this DTOs, and that DTOs I'm returning here. Second option, get product by ID. Here you can see I'm calling that product repository get by ID method. And here the product service class doesn't know who implemented this functionality. But what it knows, where this functionality is defined, where it is implemented, no idea. But where it is defined, that signature you know. So that is what the benefit of using loose coupling and interface-based approach. Now, if the product is available, that is fine. Otherwise, it is going to return all. So this is my add product. So whatever the product DTO, that's what I need to convert it to my product entity. So this is name product and all these things are there. And in the product entity, you can see we have one method to validate the business rule. And that method I'm calling here product.validate business rule. So it will validate the business rule. And if the business rule is fine, that is fine. Otherwise, it is going to throw an exception. In case of exception, this method is not going to proceed. It will go back to the upper layer who call this method. Product is valid, then what exactly it is going to do? It is going to add that product. By adding that product, we need to call this add async method. And say, once the product is added, we need to map that product to product.dto. So this is update method, right? First of all, what I need to do, guys, remember, first of all, we need to fetch the product by ID, right? So get by ID method. And then, right, we'll get the product data. We are updating the product properties, checking the validation, and then passing that updated product entity to this update async method. And this is the delete method, which is going to delete the product based on the ID. Clear? This logic is clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have done our mapping, we have done details, we have done service implementations. Clear?
Sir, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes, please.
So in the real world scenarios, do we really need the details? Why can't we just call directly from the response things? Why we need the details actually over here?
See, you just tell me, if I want to create a product, so what entity I need to use? Okay,
The
let me
product.
go ahead. Let me go ahead. I'm adding few properties: public, integer, created by, and here I'm taking get and set. And I'm setting that the default value is going to be 0. Right? Public, string, right? Public, date time, created date. Right? So now in this case, right, if I'm going to use this, right, not this one, right? Let assume these two properties I have added in my product entity. Let assume, right? So now you just tell me, while I'm going to create a new product, if I'm exposing this product entity to the client, then is the client is going to send the product ID as part of the request body? Is the client going to send this product created by a product as part of the request body? Is the client going to send this information? Yes, because these are the properties, means they will be available and they can send the data. Is this data required by our application from the client while creating a new product? Answer me, I'm asking you the question.
No, sir. This we have to be while storing the product. We have to be store the server date time.
Listen me, I'm not asking you. I'm asking who asked this question. So he needs the clarity. So answer me, is this data required for creating a product from the client?
No, sir. No.
Then how you can handle this thing? For example, if I'm going to return the product data, so while I'm returning the product information, do I need to return this audit column?
No.
Required or not required?
It depends if they want it or they don't want it. It depends.
See, for admin purpose, that is fine. But for the user point of view, right, who is going to place the order? So for that purpose,
No,
this created
no,
date
they
is not
don't want
required.
it.
So how you can manage this thing if you are using this product entity directly as part of the application layer and controller? So to avoid this thing, to avoid exposing the data, right, over data, right? I mean, to provide the exactly what is needed by the client, to take what exactly needed by the server from the client, we are using details. Clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this last layer, that is the interface adapter layer. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder. Let me go ahead and create a folder, interface adapter. And within this interface adapter folder, let me create another folder called controllers, where I'm going to define all my controllers. Now within the controllers folder, I'm going to create one controller called product controller. And this product controller, right, going to handle the incoming HTTP request and responses. This product controller is going to deal with the which layer? It is going to deal with which layer, guys? Tell me. Application layer, domain layer, or infrastructure layer? Which layer it is going to come? only application. It's not going to, it have no idea what is the domain layer, what is the infrastructure layer. It is only going to consume the application layer. So here you can see, this is the application layer service I have injected, and using this service, right, get method is there. So it is going to call, right, for example, if you are not getting, so you can give the method name as get all products. So here you can give the method name as get product by ID. So that naming convention, you can see it is calling the service layer method. It is also calling the service layer method, right? In this case, you can see, you can give the method name as a create product, right? You can also give this method name as update product, right? So better naming convention is always better, right? And this is going to be electron. Clear?
Yes.
So any logic is there? No. So here you can write that model state dot is valid. For example, in this case, you can write this model state if, right, a model state that is valid, right? If model state, okay, so let me do thing. So here one thing you can write, if model state is not valid, then what I need to do, I need to return bad request, right? So in that case, you need to return bad request. But do I need this thing in our API project? No. Why no? Because that is going to be handled. That is going to be handled by the API controller, which is decorated on top of this controller. So the model state that is valid is automatically handled by the API controller. So if you have written this thing, doesn't matter. Why? Because if the model state is invalid, then your application logic is not going to be executed. Then again, that is already handled by the application layer controller, API controller. Then why should I validate the same logic again within my application? So not required. Clear? Clear
Yes.
or not? Okay. So with this, our clean architecture implementation is completed. Now we need to generate the database file, migration and all these things. So what I need to do, I need to go to the app settings.json file. First of all, specify what is your connection string. This is my product management DB. This is my SQL Server instance. This is my database, and I'm going to create the database within that role. And here you can see the database name is going to be product management DB. So in the SQL Server database, I'm going to create this table. No, sorry, this is in the SQL Server database, I'm going to create this product management database, DB database. And inside that database, I want to create one, write it, the table. And what should be the table name? The table name is going to be products. Right now. Now, what is the next thing? Next thing, we need to configure the right services and all these things. So first of all, right, as always, right, first of all, this is my controller, which is enabling the API controller services. And here I'm registering that I'm not going to use the camel case naming convention. Camel case naming convention means what? The first word of right, first letter of each word, no, not the each word, first letter of the word is going to be in its lowercase. So what I want is whatever the name I provided, I want to keep the same name as it is. So for that purpose, I'm disabling the camel case naming convention in the JSON serialization and the deserialization. So next, what I need to register? I need to register my application to use DB context, right? Where I need to register, okay, just before the build method. So here I'm specifying, right? Here I'm registering my DB context service. It is going to use the application DB context, which we have already created. And for application DB context, it is going to use SQL Server database. And for SQL Server database, it will get the connection string from my app settings.json file. So here we are registering our DB context as a scoped service, and this DB context is going to use SQL Server database provider, and the connection string it is getting from the app settings.json file, right? And then what I need to do, I need to register my services. So two services we have created. One is a product repository. You can see that product repository interface is there. And another one is iProduct service. So all the services, right, whether it is the infrastructure layer service, whether it is the product layer service, we need to register them into the program.cs class file, I mean into the dependency injection container. So this is all about our registration and functionality, right, configuration. Next, what I need to do, I need to generate the migration file. So before that, let me build the project to see if everything is fine. Is there any issue? Is there any compilation error? So let us build the project. Yeah, build succeeded. So there is no issue. So next, what I need to do, I need to generate the migration file and update the database. So for this purpose, what I need to do, okay, let me first clear the screen. underscore migration. So the name is going to be MIG1. Any name you can give, no issue. So this will generate the migration file. Generating the migration file doesn't mean it is going to generate the database and the required table. So now, if you see the databases, this is my database. So here you can see there is no product management DB. So generating the migration file means it is only generating the file. So by applying that file to generate the database, do the modification in the database is only possible, right, when you execute this update database command. And this command, right, is going to apply the migration, and based on the migration file, whatever the changes, whether to create the database, create the table, update the table, create whatever. So in this case, database is not created, so it should create the database within the required table. So here you can see this is my product database, and it should have the product table. And in the product table, you should see the three properties. I mean the initial data, whatever we installed, right? So this is what we have done. Now you can test the functionality using Postman, using Swagger, right? Everything is possible. So let me go with the right Postman. So you can get all the product. Yes. So here I'm getting the product. You can get the product by ID. Yes, I can get the product by ID. Right? I can add a new product. Yes, you can see only the data which are required, right? It is not taking the right, what I can say, product ID test. So price, whatever price you want to give, stock I'm giving here 100. So now it is going to create one product. So here you can see product with ID 4 is created. And if you want to delete that product or update that product, for example, I want to update that product. So here I'm passing 4 and here I'm passing 4. So here I'm providing the price as 150, stock is going to be 50, right? So here I'm providing the text, and the description is also going to, I'm just updating this price and the stock for this product ID or execute this one. So here you can see I'm getting 204 means update successfully. Now again, if you verify this product ID with 4, then you should see this updated information. You can see test and whatever the updation we have done. Now if you want to delete this product, go ahead and delete. So whatever the ID you provided. So currently if you see, your database would have that newly added product. Now I'm going to delete that product. So it should delete. So 204 means success. Success means it should delete that record. So this is how you can implement and you can perform the clean architecture. And these are the benefit, right? What are the benefit? Maintainability, independence, better code quality, right? Flexibility, separation of concern, testability, right? These are the benefits that what you will get with clean architecture, right? So anyone having any question related to clean architecture? Guys?
Sir, I have a question. If our interface, like it's implemented for two classes, then how do we declare into the dependency registering into this
So you
register?
just see for iProduct repository, you have to remember production, right? For example, this is my product repository class. In which layer the implementation is going to be there? In the infrastructure layer, right?
Yes.
Right. This is my product repository. For example, you want to create a dummy one. So if you want to create a dummy one, then what you need to do? Product repository dummy. Clear?
Yes.
So now, if you want to use this version instead of this version, right?
Yes.
So you just need to copy this dummy one, go to the program class, and instead of a product repository, do this thing. That's it, nothing else.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right? And in case of right, what I can say, unit testing, you can also create a dummy version. Unit testing I will show you. If you have attended my ASP.NET core session, we have discussed how to implement unit testing, the repository layer, services layer, RAID controller layer. Everything is possible. Integration testing is also possible. So, but for now, just change this one. Now, wherever this product repository is used, why I'm saying, because if you go to the product service, does it have any idea which is the implementer class? No. Who is going to provide? Whichever implementer class you registered here, I registered this one. So this layer is, this version is going to be used. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone having any more question, guys?
Hello, sir. What's the disadvantage of clean architecture? What's the disadvantage?
Complicated. So the development, initial development is going to be complicated. Project setup is going to be complicated. If there is some disadvantages from the future, then why people are migrating or why people are using this one? There is no disadvantages, but you can say The challenges is with the complication, right? So you have to create many layer, you have to separate each responsibility in independent layer, right? That is the challenging you can consider, not these advantages.
Okay.
Yeah, hello. Actually, I have created the interface at two places. First is iProduct repository and second is iProduct services. So, why we created two places?
Sorry, I don't understand your question.
Actually, I create interface at two places, right? One is iProduct repository and another one is iProduct services. So,
You just tell me. Okay, you just tell me. So what is this controller class what we have created here, right? The controller is using which one?
control is using the iProduct services, right?
Right? If the controller is going to use right that actual repository interface, then is the actual repository interface is going to work with this DTOs?
No, sir. Got
Yes
it.
or no?
No, no,
Yes
no.
or no?
No, sir.
If no DTO, then how you can manage the data effectively? And second thing, so your repository is only responsible for managing the data in the database. Does your repository implement any validation logic, business logic?
No, no.
How to get the order, where to get the data, how to validate the data, how to calculate the amount.
Yeah,
So
got
all
it,
these
got it.
things are implemented in your application layer, right? So this,
Got it.
you have a clear boundary. Which domain infrastructure layer means only going to deal with the database. Application layer means going to implement the business logic. Right? API layer means going to handle the incoming request and HTTP, right, and the response. And this application layer, or you can say this interface layer, is going to, or you can say API layer is going to deal with the application layer. Application layer is going to use the domain whatever they defined, and the infrastructure layer implementations. That's it. So this is the way it is going to work. Clear? If you
Yes.
implement it directly, where you will implement the business logic. So is the right implementing the business logic is not the job of right what I can say repository interfaces. They are only responsible for managing the data in the database.
Yes, yes. All things are separated, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks. Got it.
Yeah. So now, if anyone new joined today, right, if they want to ask anything related to this training program, syllabus, and all these things, right, they can ask.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Sir, while we are in this microservices using, will we deploy into the Azure, sir? This?
Yes, 100%, right? Yesterday we have discussed, we are going to deploy the services into Microsoft Azure. Two deployment mechanisms I'm going to discuss. One is Docker and one is Kubernetes. So two things I'm going to use to deploy the microservices into Microsoft Azure.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, did you watch yesterday's session?
No, sir.
So
That's why,
just,
sir, I'm asking.
right, just go through it, YouTube. I'm going to upload this demo sessions on my YouTube channel. Just have a look, right? We have discussed what are the things we are going to right do as part of this training program. Yes. Next
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Thank you.
Sir, are you going to take any classes of the .NET Core as well?
The .NET Core sessions are going on in the evening time. So this is microservices. Core is in a separate timing, that is evening, 8:30 to 10 evening. And guys, one more thing I need to tell you that right, only very few seats are remaining, right? Mostly 80 seats are completed, only 20 seats are available. If anyone wants to confirm their seat, right, into this training program, they can confirm by making the payment. The payment details is there, right? I'm sharing also in the chat window. So just copy the payment information and do the payment as soon as possible because maximum 100 members for this batch. 80 seats are already filled, 20 are available. So mostly I hope today right is going to be completed most of the seats. And tomorrow is the last demo sessions and we will discuss what is domain driven design. And why I'm giving this clean architecture domain-driven design before the microservices? Because this is the base. Base means this is the design principle what we are going to apply in each microservices. And without knowing right what is clean architecture, what is domain-driven design, right, it's very difficult to understand right whenever you start developing the actual microservices. That's fine.
Sir, uh, I want to join Sir Azure also.
Okay,
Your
Azure, right? So
portal.
you can ping me, right? Azure batch information I will share later because I'm not taking Azure
Sir, when
services.
can I call you, sir? In a daytime, sir. When you are
Okay,
free, sir.
just message me. Just message me in WhatsApp. I will share the information.
Sure. I will reach office by 11 o'clock, and I will ping you around 12:30. Will be okay, sir?
Yeah, it's fine. So anytime you can message me in WhatsApp, then
Yes,
we'll
sir.
have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So guys, please take a screenshot of this one or the information what I shared in the chat window. Please do the payment if you have not yet done, and right attend the sessions because maximum 100 seats, 80 seats have already filled. Okay. Does anyone having any more question related to today's session or related to this training program? They can ask.
Sir, one question is, sir, we get, sir, this video also and notes for this, sir.
Yes. Right. Daily recorded sessions I'm going to provide. I will create a private Telegram group where I'm going to upload these documents and recorded sessions. And those who have enrolled to this training program, they will get those documents and the notes. Demo sessions I'm going to upload on my YouTube channel, which is free for everyone. But the main sessions, they are only for the paid members.
Okay. And sir, Azure, how we do the practice, sir? While suppose if I am going to, sir, 100% sir, sure, I am going to join also the Azure session,
Practical.
Azure training. How I can
Currently,
do the practical?
you just tell me the steps, the process, the document, the code, whatever I have provided in this documentation. If I
Yeah.
provide this document, can you do the practice by yourself?
Yeah, sir. That is a very easy, sir. But what about, sir, Azure? We have to register first in Azure, then we can do only the practical, or we having some kind of sandbox, sir?
No. For that purpose, you need to create your account in Azure. So they are providing some free account or free time period, right? That is what you need to do. You should have a credit card, and they are providing some free services, right? Free accounts for some time period. So you can create your account without paying anything, and you can do practices.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will to 12:30. I will ping a message, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sir, one question regarding the sessions.
Yes.
In next 3 months, all the sessions are like it will be held like today's session, right? Like
See.
all the documents you are copying whole
Exactly.
code.
See, let me give you the clarity. For me, there is no demo sessions. Every session is for me, it is a main session. So the way I have taken the yesterday session, the way I took the today session, in the same way only all the sessions are going to be completed. First of all, I will discuss the theoretical concept. Then I'm going to discuss the practical concept. The recorded
Sir,
session.
I'm leaving the session, sir, because I have to go to office.
It's fine. So those who have
Okay.
completed, those who don't have any question, they can leave the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The question is
So
regarding
all the
question
sessions
is
are going to
regarding
be like today's session.
the coding part.
Sorry?
The question is regarding the coding part. If we are going the implementing the DTOs or implementing the controller and like discussing and the all the data annotations and the HTTP verbs and regarding the things, so that anyone who is like new to the microservice or the new to the web APIs should can understand. So
See, first of all, you have to remember, if you do not know ASP.NET Core Web API, then this session is not for you.
Okay.
Right? Because the prerequisite for microservices is ASP.NET Core Web API. So if you know the basic concept of ASP.NET Core Web API, that is more than sufficient. Whatever the concept will come as part of, for example, in today's session. So why I'm using DTO, why I'm using DP context, how to install the package,
Correct.
right? So whatever comes as part of the training program, I will explain. But apart from this, many things are there in ASP.NET Core, which we might not be used in our project. So those things you need to know.
Understood.
Right?
But apart from this web API concept, all the things which are in usable in the like GPR, GRPS,
Yeah,
GPRS.
that is not part of the ASP.NET Core Web API. So
Right.
that is what I'm going to explain. So what is my requirement? You should know the basic concept. Basic concept
Yes.
in basic entity framework core, basic ADO.NET Core, right? What is model, what is validation, what is controller, what is routing, what is data annotation. So these things you should know. What are the concepts related to microservices? That is my responsibility.
Okay. Understood.
Right, but I'm suppose someone asks you, sir, what is a controller, what is action method? So these things I'm not going to explain, right? What is controller and what is action method? So that is you should know, right? So if someone asks you, sir, what is HTTP, sir, why you are using this HTTP post, HTTP get? So this is, if you know the right, don't know this thing, means your basic is not clear. Then first of all, you need to clear your basics. So you should know get method means it should access by HTTP get request only. Post means it should access by HTTP post method only. So that is what the basic knowledge is required. Other things, advanced concept, I am going to handle. Clear?
Yes. Thank you.
Anyone
So
else?
I just have a
Yes.
question. So I have done ASP.NET Core as well. My concepts are clear, but not at a higher level. My basic concepts are clear. That's why I just want to take the classes. So do you have any upcoming batch for the .NET Core?
Yeah, .NET Core batch is going on in the evening time, 8:30 to 10. Right in the mid-August, right? I think a new batch is also going to start. Right, so for .NET Core related thing, you can ping me and we'll discuss separately, right? What is the best for you so that we can do the same thing.
Sir, I don't have your phone number. Is this the phone number 985377937?
This is not the phone number. So I have shared the details in the chat window.
Okay, sounds good, sir. Thank you, sir.
In the chat window, I have shared the contact details you can have, right?
Okay.
So anyone else having any more question, guys?
Sir, last question. So basically, this recording will be available on private Telegram group. Like it
Yes.
will be in structure way, right?
Yes, it will be in a proper structure manner, right? Okay, let me show you this thing, right? How it is going to be there.
Because if we have website, right, so it will be nice. So
For
I curious.
let me show you how it is going to be there, right? So you can see this is, so on a daily basis, right? For example, I'm taking one session, that session recording and the documentation will be provided, right? For example, ASP.NET Core Web API versioning. So that recorded session, the corresponding document. So minimal API day one, that the recorded session, the corresponding document. Minimal API day two, that recorded session and the documentation. All these things I'm going to provide one by one. Why I'm not providing on my website? Because in my website there is no restriction. Anyone can access anything.
Okay.
Right? For example, this is authentication, custom authorization filter, resource filter, or action filter, that right documentations, right, that recorded session and the document. Again, these are going to be uploaded on a daily basis. For example, this is May 17, this is May 16, where I'm discussing what are filter, authorization filter, right? This is the result filter and exception filter. So this is how it is going to be implemented. Clear?
Yeah, got it. But this will be, we need to scroll like if we want to see old video.
Yeah, so that is already implemented one by one. For example, this is my hotel booking application, day 10. So how to implement the refund model. So this is how to implement the cancellation model, how to implement the reservation model, how to implement the search model, how to implement search model part one, how to implement the room model, right, room type model, how to implement the hotel model. So this is going to be right day by day, whatever session I'm taking, the corresponding documents. So that right, you will not find any difficulty.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Anyone else having any more question, guys? Okay. Thank you, guys, for joining today's session.
Thank you very much.